I cheated to get my ex back, and it worked, though not in the way most people would imagine. It wasn't a simple trick, not just a matter of lying about one thing or pretending to be someone else for a moment. It was layered, complicated, and deliberate. When she left me, she didn't do it in anger, not with shouting or slammed doors. She walked away quietly, as though she had been planning it for a long time, waiting for the right second when the silence between us felt heavier than words. That kind of ending is harder to recover from, because it isn't about one mistake. It's about the slow erosion of trust, about watching something you love dry up and crack until there's nothing left to hold on to. But I couldn't accept it. I told myself that people make mistakes, that people drift, that sometimes love needs to be reminded why it mattered in the first place. What I didn't tell myself was the truth. I was willing to manipulate the situation just to get her back. At first, I tried the usual things, texting her late at night, pretending I had something important to tell her just to spark a conversation, bumping into her in places I knew she'd be. She didn't buy any of it. She was polite, sometimes even kind, but distant in that way that tells you the wall has already been built and you're standing on the wrong side. I realized then that if I wanted her back, I would have to cheat, not cheat in love, but cheat the game itself. So I invented stories. I painted myself as someone she could miss. I let her hear from mutual friends about opportunities one didn't really have, successes I hadn't really achieved, changes I hadn't really made. I knew she was listening, even if she never asked me directly. I crafted a version of myself that didn't exist yet, one that sounded brighter, steadier, more in control than the man she had left. I cheated by letting her believe in that version. It worked slowly, like a rope pulling her curiosity back toward me. She began responding to my messages with warmth again. She laughed at things I said. One night, she even asked if I wanted to grab coffee, as if it had been her idea. I remember sitting across from her in that cafe, my hands wrapped too tightly around the cup, trying not to show how badly I wanted to reach across the table and hold her hand. She told me I seemed different, lighter, as though something in me had shifted. I smiled and let her believe it. The truth is, I hadn't changed, not really. I was still the same man, just wearing a mask I had carefully stitched together with lies and half-truths. But she leaned into it, maybe because she wanted to believe, maybe because she missed me more than she admitted. And when she finally agreed to give us another chance, it felt like winning a battle I had been waging alone in the dark. But here's the part that surprised me. Once she came back, once we slipped into old rhythms and familiar touches, I realized I couldn't keep playing the role forever. The mask was heavy. The lies needed feeding. If I stayed the man I had pretended to be, she'd eventually see through me. And yet, in some strange, twisted way, pretending had forced me to start becoming that version of myself. I had lied about being stronger, more disciplined, more alive, but then, day by day, I started living up to it. I cheated to get her back, but once she was here, I couldn't rely on tricks anymore. I had to grow into the person I had promised I was, even if I had promised it through deception. And maybe that's the real secret I discovered. Sometimes cheating isn't about breaking the rules to win. It's about writing a better script for yourself, then forcing reality to catch up. So yes, I cheated to get my ex back, and it worked. But the bigger truth is, the only reason it kept working was because, eventually, I stopped cheating. I cheated to get my ex back, and it worked, though even now I'm not sure if that was victory or a curse I chose willingly. When she left, it wasn't an explosion. It was the quiet kind of departure, the kind that feels almost like a slow leak you don't notice until everything around you is empty. She told me she needed something different, something I couldn't give her, though she never said exactly what. Maybe she thought sparing me the details would hurt less, but it didn't. Silence always cuts deeper than words. For weeks, I told myself I could survive without her. I threw myself into distractions, into nights I wouldn't remember and conversations I didn't care about. But she lingered everywhere, in the smell of her perfume on my jacket, in the empty space beside me in bed, in the way I reached for my phone at midnight only to stop myself, knowing she wouldn't answer. She became a ghost that haunted me while still living just a few blocks away. That's when the idea started. Desperation makes strange things seem logical. I thought if she couldn't love who I was, maybe she could love who I pretended to be. I didn't see it as lying, not at first. I saw it as rewriting myself into someone worth staying for. But lies have a way of multiplying, and soon I was building an entire version of me that didn't exist. I told her friends I had a new job, a better one, the kind that proved I was finally stable, ambitious, reliable. I let words slip that I was dating someone new, someone beautiful, someone who saw in me what she hadn't. That wasn't true either. But I knew curiosity was a powerful thing, and I wanted her curious. I posted pictures that hinted at adventures I never went on, dinners I never ate, confidence I never really felt. Every move was calculated, every gesture rehearsed. And it worked. She called one night, her voice light, casual, but I heard the undertone. She wanted to know if the stories were true. She wanted to see for herself. We met, and she studied me as if she were looking for cracks in the surface. I gave her nothing but the mask. I smiled more. I carried myself differently. I spoke as though the world had finally bent in my favor. She laughed in a way I hadn't heard in months, and when her hand brushed mine, it was both familiar and foreign, like touching a memory I thought I'd lost. The night she told me she wanted to try again, I felt like I had won. The ache that had hollowed me out was suddenly filled, and I told myself the ends justified the means. But victory has a strange taste when you know it's built on dishonesty. At first, it was intoxicating. I had her back, her warmth, her trust. But soon, the lies began to whisper in the background. Every time she asked about work, I had to invent details. Every time she asked about where I'd been, I had to remember stories I'd made up. I was playing a part in my own relationship, trapped in a script I had written for myself. Yet, something unexpected happened. Pretending to be that version of me forced me to start becoming him. I did look for a better job just so I wouldn't be caught in a lie. I started taking care of myself because I had claimed to. I built routines and discipline around the fantasy until the fantasy began to blur into reality. Slowly, I began to believe in the man I had invented, and in a strange way, so did she. There were nights I would wake and watch her sleeping beside me, wondering if she loved me or the character I had created. Then again, maybe that didn't matter. Maybe we all love versions of each other, fragments of truth and illusion stitched together. She didn't leave again, at least not yet. She held on to me as though I had finally become everything she had wanted, and maybe, in some twisted way, I had. I cheated to get my ex back, and it worked. But here's what no one tells you. Once you start living inside a lie, it doesn't matter if the lie becomes real. You can never quite forget how it started. And some nights, when I catch her smiling at me, I wonder if she would still be here if I had never cheated in the first place. I cheated to get my ex back, and it worked, but the truth is, once you step into the shadows, you never really come back out clean. The lie was simple at first, a small twist of reality, a story meant to catch her attention. But like a seed planted in secret, it grew roots I couldn't control. When she called me that night, her voice softer than I remembered, I felt a thrill, a rush that tasted like victory. She wanted to see me, to test whether the rumors she'd heard were true. I told her they were. I told her I was doing better than ever. And when we sat together, when she smiled at the person she thought I had become, I realized how dangerous the game had become. She slipped back into my life the way she had slipped out of it, quietly, as though it had been inevitable. At first, it was coffee dates, little exchanges that felt innocent. Then it was late-night calls, her laughter filling the spaces that had been empty for so long. Eventually, she was in my apartment again, her things scattered across the bathroom counter, her scent seeping back into the fabric of my clothes. It should have felt like homecoming. Instead, it felt like trespassing into a life I didn't own. Because every moment with her was haunted by the mask I wore. I had told her I was different, better, stronger. So I forced myself to be. I worked longer hours, not because I had to, but because I wanted her to believe I was ambitious. I smiled through my exhaustion because I wanted her to think I was thriving. I pushed away old habits, not out of discipline, but out of fear that she'd see the cracks. My life became a performance, and she was my only audience. And yet, sometimes, I caught her looking at me with a kind of suspicion, as though she could sense the script beneath the surface. Once, she asked me why I never seemed tired from all the new responsibilities I claimed to have. I laughed it off, made some joke about energy I never used to have. She smiled, but there was something in her eyes I didn't like, a shadow of doubt. That's when I realized I wasn't just lying to her anymore. I was lying to myself. The man I had created wasn't real, but I wanted him to be. I wanted to deserve her, to be the person she thought she had come back to. But the weight of the mask grew heavier each day. I started dreaming about it, waking in the middle of the night with the taste of guilt in my mouth. I would watch her sleep, her hand resting gently on my chest, and wonder if she would recoil if she knew the truth. And yet she stayed. She laughed. She kissed me. She told me she was glad she had given me another chance. She spoke of the future in ways that once terrified me but now only made me feel cornered. Because every plan, every dream, every whispered promise was built on a foundation I knew could collapse at any second. The cruel irony was that the longer I lived the lie, the more it began to shape me. I worked harder. I became more disciplined. I actually landed the job I had pretended to have. The fantasy bled into reality until the line between the two blurred so thin I could barely tell which side I was standing on. In a way, the cheat had forced me to evolve, but that didn't erase the fact that it had started in dishonesty. Now, when I look at her, when she laughs at something I say or leans her head on my shoulder, I feel two truths pressing against me at once. The first is that I love her, desperately, more than I can put into words. The second is that she doesn't love me. She loves the man I invented, the man I am still chasing but may never fully become. And I don't know which truth will destroy me first. So, yes, I cheated to get my ex back. And it worked. But every day I wake beside her, I wonder if what I really won was love, or just another lie I've trapped us both inside.